All right, so we've been talking about it all day long in some form or fashion, but now we have to discuss the Leaving Neverland review. The supposedly devastating 4-hour documentary that's going to be airing on HBO here in the U.S. in the spring. It premiered on Friday at Sundance. And it features two men who are now grown up, who were supposedly repeat victims for years and years of sexual abuse from Michael Jackson. The point of the film, according to a multitude of reviews, was to blatantly lay out the history of sexual abuse that went on at Neverland Ranch. Now, according to this review I'm reading right here, there's no longer any doubt at all. Not only do the documentary's two main subjects perfectly corroborate their separate accounts in all of the most tragic of ways, but they do so with a degree of vulnerability that denies any room for skepticism. The same is true of their family members, who share a profound guilt for how they enabled this abuse, and a bone-deep rage at the man who perpetrated it. A man who some of them once loved, a man who some of them still do. Brace yourself for specifics, as dancing around them would defeat the purpose of the documentary. Jackson was a man who convinced their most innocent relatives. How do I describe this? To bend over and expose themselves while he pleasured himself.
What?
Who forced them to put their mouths on parts of his body.
What?
All right. Crazy.
I'm being polite. Received oral sex from an 8-year-old boy. And then it gets into penetration.
What?
And how penetration started at around that age. At one point, there was even a mock wedding ceremony where Michael, according to the movie, married one of the children.
Who?
Michael Jackson married one of the children.
Wow. Who was?
Right, how
The mothers chaperoned many of these vile trysts, oblivious or in denial about what Jackson was doing to their sons behind closed doors. A teenage sibling even defended Michael Jackson in court. She didn't know any better, but says she regrets the decision and will until the day she died. One of the kids met Michael at a dance contest at the Target store in Australia in 1987 when he was 5 years old. First prize was a chance to meet Michael Jackson. Michael was so enamored by the adorable little fan that he invited him to perform on stage. There's home video of this to back it up, as there is virtually home video to back up nearly everything aside from the sex crimes. Then, of course, there's audio recordings of their phone calls, many photos, letters, faxes. The other kid, Jimmy Safechuck, wasn't a big Michael Jackson fan before he met him in the 1987 Pepsi commercial. For 2 hours, basically, it goes on to describe the gruesome things that happened at Neverland Ranch. And then in hour 3, it gets into the trial. Guys, listen, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's crazy.
And afterwards, after the premiere, the two now grown up victims, reported victims, did a Q&A with the director and the audience. The Michael Jackson estate denied this, said these kids have always been liars, and basically said, thank you, HBO. Michael Jackson gave you the biggest music special you ever had, ever in history, and this is how you repay Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it's hard because, you know, we love Michael and we don't want to believe that he would do anything like that.
No, we sure don't.
And based on what you said before in terms of how society depicts this to be true or not, that to me just makes it very foggy as to whether we really convict Michael for this, because this actually went to court, and when it came to the facts proved that he didn't do it. Now the boys were young, and now they're grown and they're giving their testimony, but now there's nobody else to prove that this isn't correct or is correct. You know what I'm saying? So where do we go with this?
I don't know. I mean, I think the first thing you have to do is probably see the film. Because for whatever reason, the people who saw the film, and if you were reading the tweets from the people in the theater, for whatever reason, and I say this as someone who, I walked down the aisle to Michael Jackson's song at my wedding. My record collection is like crazy. I'm obsessed with Michael Jackson. You guys know I always play the birthday mix on when it's like I'm obsessed. But for whatever reason, people, when they viewed the movie, there's something about the testimonies in the movie that are so strong that people all came away like floored believing it.
It's undeniable.
That's how they felt. People walked away from it feeling oh my God.
This could have actually happened.
Like this looks like it happened. With their jaws dropped. Now, if Michael never did this, there would still be all the home videos, all the pictures, all the other stuff would still exist.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, we're then forced to ask ourselves, how long have all of us as Michael Jackson fans been saying in some way or another, yeah, I mean, I know he liked to have sleepovers with kids, but I mean, he didn't have a childhood.
Yeah.
If any of us ever had a 45-year-old friend who liked to have sleepovers with children, what would that friend be in your life?
Who lived in Brownsville? Like,
if your friend Steve in Brownsville
I had kids sleeping over his
was
crib.
43,
Yeah.
He's a weirdo.
And he had a bunch of video games for kids to come over and play.
He's a weirdo. Probably a pedophile.
Would you let your kid go hang out at his house?
Me, I wouldn't let my kid hang out at Michael's house.
See?
You know what I'm saying? But that's just because I'm a protective parent. It wouldn't happen. These parents, they left their kids in the hands of Michael because he's a celebrity. They played themselves. That in itself, whether something happened or not, you just don't do that.
No, of course, I agree.
So
with
now
you.
you have to rely on your kid's word, and they can't give a clear account. At least they couldn't in court to convict somebody who potentially did something to them. As a parent, you played yourself in that situation.
But now here's the question I have that I put out to the audience. If we see the film when it comes out in the spring, and it turns out to be as horrifying as the reviews described it to be, where you're literally left at the end like floored. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely floored. Like, remember, as bad as the R. Kelly stuff was, we've really already all known about R. Kelly. This was just lining up all the evidence in a row. And as sick and disgusting as the R. Kelly stories are, we're talking about 7, 8-year-old children here. So my question is, and by the way, Michael Jackson's the biggest solo star ever internationally in the history of music. R. Kelly, when it comes to Michael Jackson, is light work.
Right.
He's barely even on the radar next to Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? As big as R. Kelly is, and he's huge.
Right.
He's nothing next to Michael Jackson.
Right.
Michael Jackson is part of our lives. There are currently commercials with Michael Jackson music running on every channel all the time.
5 decades of music.
I mean, we're talking about going back to ABC, Rockin' Robin.
Right.
Okay.
Generations of people and his influence, for sure.
So here's my question. If we, and 1-800-223-9797, if we watch the movie and really come away feeling like, oh my gosh, he did this, what do we do? Because what I just described, if you're talking about having actual intercourse with little boys, how are you then able to be like, oh, but when I hear pretty young thing, I separate it? And I wasn't even saying pretty young thing for specific reasons, but
Damn.
If hypothetically speaking, this is proven to be
Shawnee, if you were to read if you go on Twitter and you read how the people felt, and you felt that way, you walked away about to vomit because you were like, oh my God, it's true.
It feels like
I
it's true.
think it's true now.
Right.
Based on looking in the eyes of the victims talking and hearing them, because there is something to that. We are humans. Yes, people can lie, but it's hard to be trained to be the world's greatest actor. There's a reason when you watch the R. Kelly thing, you were moved, because people seem really real. So my question is, if we watch this film and we walk away at the end going, it's real, how the hell, guys? Canceling R. Kelly is light work. And I love R. Kelly's music, by the way, too. You guys know
Could
that.
we cancel Michael Jackson?
That's what I'm saying. We there's a world we live in which we never listen to Billie Jean again. We never listen to Don't Stop Till You Get Enough again. Is that really going to happen? This is such a bigger deal in terms of how much it affects pop culture and how much it affects all of our lives on a basic level.
Well, I just wanted to say two things. Number one, if this is actually found, if I go away feeling that way, the first thing and I've always said this, the parents should be held accountable. Mm-hmm. So they should immediately lock them up. I mean, that's endangering the welfare of a child. And they knew. They turned a blind eye. Right. And they knew because they wanted the fame and the money or whatever was going on. They were into that more than their child. And as far as not listening to Michael, I don't know, honestly, if I could just stop listening to Michael Jackson. Even if I wanted to, like you said, I'm 50 years old. He transcends generations. My 3-year-old, when my nephew was 3 years old, he was going off when Michael performed at the Super Bowl. He was just going off, and he was only 3. So his music is just awesome, and it just goes from generation to generation, and it's just a part of our lives. I mean, who's not going to listen to I'll Be There?
Yeah, but
I
know, but listen to this. I know, but listen to this.
Know.
Think about what you just said, Monica. You were in one breath. You said the parents should be held accountable and thrown in jail. In another sense, you said
primarily.
But then in the next sentence, you said you can't even hold yourself accountable to stop listening to his music.
Me personally, I don't know, but
I'm not saying, and I'm not knocking you. I understand.
If I were a parent, that's why I said the parents, because if I were the parent, absolutely, I should be held accountable. But listening to his music, I don't know that I can just stop and halt listening to Michael Jackson. When he comes on the radio, I don't care what else is going on. I'm blasting it. I'm turning it on. I don't know if I can stop that. I don't know if I can stop that.
Can't stop till you get enough. Yeah.
She's saying for herself. She's not necessarily saying that she's going to blast it in front of a classroom of kids.
No, I hear you.
So being responsible for somebody else sometimes creates a difference.
It's a very, very difficult circumstance. I have to tell you, I'm very scared about seeing this film. Want to reiterate, nothing that I'm talking about we know to be true, but it's alleged in the film. Should also be noted that one of the kids in the film who says that Michael did all these things once took the stand and swore that Michael never did anything. So at one point, one of these kids actually got up on the stand and said, no, this never happened.
Wow.
Right.
And since then has changed his tune and said that at the time he wasn't aware of it and then went to psychotherapy and then realized just exactly what happened. So it all remains to be seen.
So Mike didn't do it.
Maybe he didn't do it, Shawnee. That's what we would all like. We would all like.
We don't know.
Let's go to line 2, Christina.
Hello.
Hey, Christina, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing all right. I had to pull over and call because this Michael Jackson thing is really, it's a lot, and it's a lot for my family. I think that when it comes to grown-ups touching children, I think that is my biggest fear for my son. He's 6. And to the point where it's starting to be teachers, coaches, everything's coming out, and I make sure I have an open dialogue with him that, this person touches you this way, and you make sure that you tell someone right away. They don't love you. They don't care about you. But during Christmas time, he listened to a lot of Michael Jackson music. He likes This Is It. He watched it on Netflix. He's a big Michael Jackson fan. And it started to get to it got to my guilt that I was allowing him to really enjoy this artist. And as soon as I heard that this documentary was coming out, I actually had the conversation with him like, look, Michael Jackson has touched these little boys and really hurt them and really changed their lives. And I said, now it's up to you whether or not you want to continue to listen to this music. But I want to let you know that this isn't the type of person that I would ever let you be around. And he kind of looked at me like he was shocked. And I said, and R. Kelly from that Space Jam song you liked? And he said, yes. I said, him too, with younger girls. And that really shocked him.
And your son is 6 years old?
He's 6, going on 7 this year.
It sounds like he's going on 17. Serious conversation. So
You have to have that type of conversation with your kids. You have to keep the open dialogue because it's a grown-up. It's a person who's going to take advantage of that.
I agree.
Them not knowing.
So what did you guys decide to do about the music in the house?
I mean, I don't put it on anymore. He hasn't asked for it, and we just sort of left it at that. You know, I just felt like keep feeding him this music, playing more Michael Jackson songs, finding more on Spotify to show him and play for him. It got to my guilt, and I had to say something to him. Mm-hmm. So we just don't play the music anymore. And whether it's proven or not, in my heart, I feel like it's true.
I hear you, Christina. Thank you for your call. And listen, I mean, we have to be real with the fact that regardless of what happens with the movie, we have all had these concerns for a long time.
Right. I mean, I respect her decision to make a stand, right, for her 6-year-old. Whether she believes it's true or not, that she just doesn't want her child to be connected to anybody who even has those allegations, and that's a prerogative. So I could dig it. Respect. Guard your children, however you see fit. You know, make sure they're at peace and mentally stable.
Phone line's still ringing crazy. Everyone's going to feel very, very strongly about this. Like I said, the R. Kelly thing. R. Kelly's one thing. Michael Jackson's a whole different thing altogether.